I think we'll go ahead and get started this morning. We're lucky today to have Chris Straw, one of the community leaders here in Auburn, business owner of Team Quality Services. He graciously agreed to come and talk to us today about the work that we do with Portrait of a Baron and kind of his perspective on how that impacts businesses and our community. So this morning, please give your attention to Chris, and he's going to talk to us for just a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, so a few rules of engagement here. I'm going to walk around all over the place, all right? So no cheating, none of that stuff. I was going to do the clap, 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 if you guys would calm down. So, I have a unique perspective for you guys in that as a customer to the product that you make, I have been a student because we can hear some bulldogs. Bulldog, all right, very nice. And then middle school, and then graduated DeKalb High School in 1987. So it's been a while, but I went through this program. And so I can give you a perspective as a student, and then went off on to college, had kids, and became a parent to Barons. So I can give you that perspective as a customer, as a parent. And then started a business here in Auburn, and we're right uptown here, but we now hire Barons. So I can also give you that perspective as a customer on that side. So it's a pretty unique opportunity that you have here that I don't think that you think about a lot. When I talked to the high school back in May, they had never really thought of it that way, that we have customers. And it really doesn't matter what you do if your customer doesn't like it, it's really not worth anything. And so that's what I'm here today to kind of give you some background and perspective of why we do what we do and why it's important. I was asked, I don't remember how long ago it was, but to participate with some other community folks and educators to come up with this, the Portrait of a Baron Graduate. And I love what we came up with. The only thing that I would really change is I would take off graduate. I would strike that. It is Portrait of a Baron. And you guys are barons. So this isn't just a kid thing. This is an all of us thing. We are all barons. And to teach it, we have to live it. We have to model it. Because, I mean, you watch TikTok and the Kardashians and everything. And where do our kids pick it up? The Kardashian class? No. They emulate it. They learn by what they see, by what is modeled. So we have to do that. We have to do that in order for this to sink in. Now, I'll go back to when I graduated in '87 and then went off to college. And my dream was not to do this. It wasn't to be a business leader. That wasn't it at all. My dream was, at this point in my life, I thought I'd be flying 747s for United Airlines. I wanted to go fly airplanes. I couldn't believe that you could go to college to fly airplanes. I mean, how cool is that? Purdue. And what I liked about it most was this college to fly airplanes. Okay, that's probably going to be minimal classroom time and mostly airplane time because you can't learn how to fly a plane by reading a book. You just can't. And so, you know, we talk about now we got cool words for it like project-based learning and things like that, but it's very real. And that's what excited me about being an airline pilot, plus the travel and all that kind of stuff. Now perspectives change as we get older and you start to have kids and you realize, you know what, spending the weekend in Tampa or wherever sounds really cool when you're single and 20, but when you have a family and you're 26, not quite as cool. And so all my life has been worked up to become an airline pilot. One of the qualifications to be an airline pilot that is most important, because customers like pilots with experience. That's weird, but whatever. So your job as you're learning is to build flight hours. It's all about your flight time. How much flight time can I get? And you track all that so that you can get that interview and get that job with United or Delta or whatever. So I graduated college in 1991, and it is in the middle of a recession. You can get a job at the local airport. oh boy, talk about adaptability, what are we going to do? So my very first job out of college with my 4-year degree, I took all those skills and I was a waiter at Cheddar's. My dad was so proud. But that wasn't the end. It couldn't be the end. There's no way. So adaptability wasn't something that, I'm just going to wake up and do it today. It was survival. And so, okay, how do I get back into flying? And man, I tried doing all kinds of stuff. And finally I talked to a friend of mine and she said, I'm thinking, she was in the same boat, she graduated with me from college. She said, I'm thinking about joining the military. Wow, okay, that's pretty deep. I don't know if I'm that kind of guy. Never thought of myself as that kind of guy. But the suck was starting to outweigh the suck of what the military would be. And so I went and I applied, and I went to the recruiter down in Fort Wayne and I said, hey, I want to fly tankers at Grissom in the Air Force Reserve. I was very specific. I didn't come in there and, hey, here's what do you got for me? It was very, very specific. He goes, whoa, okay, let's back up a little bit. Tell me about yourself. And so we went through all that. And the steps that it took to go from that moment to actually flying in the Air Force Reserve was 5 years. 5 years, because in the middle of that recession, the Air Force wasn't even hiring. It was that bad. They weren't hiring. There was a hiring freeze for pilots in the Air Force. So I had to do more crazy jobs around this county and Allen County, waiting for my call. Got the call, off I went. And I had to do some testing and things. And I remember I got hired. I got the job. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy because now life is back off and going again. One of the things that was the barrier next was, okay, so we're going to send you over next door down at Grissom, which is just north of Indy. We're going to send you over to the dock. You got to pass your physical, get your eyes checked, all that kind of stuff. Okay, great. I can handle that. Now remember, we're now like 3 years into this. Wait. So I go to the dock. Everything checks out fine. Last thing is my eyes. To be a pilot in the Air Force to get hired, you have to have 20/20 vision. 20/20. Uncorrected. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's the bottom line. So I go to the eye doc. Think I do great. And I remember he slid his that little four-legged stool on wheels thing. So he slid that away, and he just kind of looked really weird. And I'm like, what? And he goes, your eyes are 20/25. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, 20/20 is the min. You don't make it. And again, you're seeing your whole life just crashing. Oh my gosh, well what can we do about it? He goes, there's really nothing you can do. Whatever. So I left that doctor's office and I went back to the colonel that I've been working with now for 3 years to finally get hired. I told him what was going on. He goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, we got to do something. He goes, okay, I'll tell you what. He goes, maybe you were tired today. He goes, why don't you come back tomorrow, get a good night's rest. Come back tomorrow and we'll try it again. Okay. I didn't sleep for crap that night. And so I come back the next day and I am so nervous. This is it. It all hinges on this eye exam. And the doc slides his little thing up and he put the little eye thing in front of me. I think maybe 2 clicks. And he goes, awesome, you're 20/20 today. Wait a minute, what? And what I learned later is they were testing my resolve. Because you think that passing an eye exam is hard? Wait till you're spinning from 18,000 feet, thinking you're going to die. Pilot training is hard. And so the Air Force put these little checks and balances in all along the way to weed me out, to see if I had some of these character traits. They weren't asking about my flying. They were asking about my character. Because character is what it all comes down to. And that's why when we sat in the McKinney-Harrison cafeteria as community leaders and educators to come up with what is important as a bearing. It isn't, we need to have these SAT scores and we got to know who the Emperor of China was in the 1200s. No. we came up with, what does it take? What kind of character? Because if you've got that, you can get through anything else. You figure it out. And so that's why these are here, and that's why these are so important. So as I built my company, as we started going through that, you know, when you're interviewing somebody, a resume will come across our desks, and honestly, this is no joke, we look at it for 5 seconds, because there's just so many. And most of the time, it's not even reading it, it's just, does it look good from 6 feet away? Because does the person have that attention to detail of how things are presented, let alone the spelling and all that kind of stuff. And then if they make it through that, then they go to the next round where now we'll look at some basic skills. Do they have those, maybe for what we're looking for? And then after that, how long, how committed are they to the different places? Any one of those things, they're all weed outs. Because I gotta go from 100 resumes to one spot. So I've gotta be efficient, I've gotta be effective to do that. Okay, so let's say you make it through that. Now, get to the interview. And the interview is speed dating to figure this out. So I took some tips and tricks from all the different things that I've learned throughout the years, military training, research, all that, to come up with some ways to discover if they have these character traits. And I'll kind of go through what's important to me and what's important to us when I read these and I think about these and how they affect me, and then how we filter those out and discover whether the candidate has those or not. So what we do, and I learned this trick actually from Microsoft, is when you have a candidate in there for the interview, we want to test that first one, adaptability. And so people are nervous when they come into the interview. Of course they are. So we try and get them to relax a little bit so we can really see the true them. And just when they're feeling pretty good about themselves and pretty relaxed, we give them a problem. And everybody loves story problems, right? So we give them a problem. Like I said, this one was picked up from Microsoft. And we give them a problem that they get to take home. They even get homework. And so the question is, how many square yards of AstroTurf are there in NFL football fields? Because we have to put a quote together for a customer that needs to know that. So I need you to figure that out. And that's it. That's all we give them. Now they can ask questions, and we'll get questions like, are you talking just within the stripes? Nope. Everything. It's an impossible problem. There's no way you're ever going to figure that answer. There's no way. And that's where adaptability comes in. Because to me, you've got to, and I underline these words in that, responding productively to the expected and unexpected. So how does this person respond to that impossible problem with no right answer? And we let them take that home, and then they have to come back the next day and present their solution. And so when they come back the next day, you wouldn't believe all the different things that we get. But man, does that give some insight to us in how they solve a problem. And we've had people not come back. Good. Because this one's easy. This one isn't jobs on the line, customers on the line, or anything. This one's easy. So those people get weeded out. The ones that do come back, how do they present? What do they bring back? We've had people come back with scratchy notes, and looks like they did it in the car about 5 minutes before the second interview. Next. We've had people come back with PowerPoints, and the thing that we ask is, we need to see your work. How'd you come up with this? Because that gets me to the next one, collaboration. We set out what the goal is, and you have to achieve it. Now, people a lot of times think collaboration is just working with your neighbor. It's not the case, especially these days. If I want an answer, I don't go ask my neighbor, I check Google. I I check that first, and then I'll go through several different things to find that answer, to test the different theories that I come up with. And that's what we're looking for. Collaboration using, to me, that is using all of your resources available. People, experience, computers, Google, whatever. You got to check all that stuff to get the best answer. It might not be the right answer, but in your world, what's the best answer? So then they have to present that. And here's where we really test that communication skill. Because you know what the number one thing that freaks us out as adults in our job. The number one thing that people are terrified to do. What is it? Negative. The number one thing people are terrified to do in any job. Public speaking. That's the number one thing that just freezes people. Freezes them. And so they have to now get up, give an answer that they have no idea if it's right or not. So we get to see, do you believe in your work or not? It's really going to show how well you did your project, how well you organize your thoughts, and present your answer to me. What a great exercise to dive into how somebody's brain and their thinking and their commitment really works for something pretty crazy. Then we go to critical thinking. And when I underline the words there, it's the last two. I mean, really, it all comes down to, we got to solve problems. That's what this is about. That's what our world is outside of elementary school, inside of elementary school. It's life. It's solving problems. How are you going to do that? And you've got to have that critical thinking to be able to do so. And that's what we see. Next, we jump down to empathy. And when I look at that, I see the things that I underline are awareness and compassion for others. Awareness and compassion for others. Now, if the person makes it through this interview and they get hired, one of the things we do is during our orientation, we make sure to eat with them. Because that's going to tell us a lot about how you're raised, right? And we want to see that. Now, we're empathetic to different cultures, different things like that, but I got to know what I'm getting into. I got to know what I'm getting into. I go back to a guy, you've probably heard of him, his name's Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab used to do this thing where he would take candidates to a restaurant. He would take them out to lunch or dinner, and he would usually take along their spouse if he could. Because then you really get to see how this is playing out. Because everybody can put on a good face, but the real face is going to come out sooner or later. And he would purposefully work with the restaurant to screw that person's order up twice. Not just once, twice. Because, you know, your cheeseburger or whatever, your steak comes out and it's screwed up. Oh, you know, hey, sorry, can you send this back? You know, everybody can be cool that first time, right? Then the second time it comes out. And it's not so great, where you screw up the spouse's meal. See how that person does it? Oh, man. And he said, you would learn so much about a person. And again, how do they handle it? Are they empathetic to the waiter, the cook? Or are they just losing? You know? Fun stuff to just trying to discover as we speed date. Are we going to be able to hang out together? When I jump down to integrity, the words that I underline there are trustworthy in everything. Everything that they do. Because people can look great. People show up for the interview and man, they are polished, they are prepared, they got the resume, all the boxes are checked. And so one of the things that we'll do is you're presenting yourself the best you that you know how. And so while they're doing the interview, one of the things that we'll do is we'll go out and look in their car. Is there McDonald's wrappers in the back seat? Is it just a total pit? Because that's how you really are. Where did you park? Did you park? Because we tell them where they're supposed to park. And it's not the closest to the building. But do you follow rules? Do you follow simple things? All that stuff plays into account. And we check all that stuff because, again, I got to spend more time with this person than I probably do most of the rest of my family. So that's one of the things that we look for. Another thing that I was taught, and this was an airline interview technique that we use. The last thing that people check, usually the suit looks good, whatever, it all looks really good. The last thing to pay attention to, because usually it's the last thing you think about, when you're picking out your interview outfit, you got it all down and everything, and the last thing is usually, because it's late at night, your shoes. They probably use a polish. It's late. So checking the person's shoes. That tells a lot about a person. And then if we see shoes that those look spiffy, and then, I don't know if they teach you this in teacher school or not, but there's a thing called mirroring. And so the interviewer, if the person has decent shoes, will relax the room a little bit, and they'll sit back in their chair and maybe put their leg up like this. And usually what happens after a few minutes, the person will relax and put their leg up. Good. Now I can see the bottom of your shoe. Because are they brand new, or do you take care of the shoes that you have? And yeah, you wear these shoes, but you take good care of them. Again, silly stuff, but it gives me some insight into your character. Because I can teach skills, but if you don't bring the character, it's probably not going to work out. Finally, is perseverance. The words I have underlined there are never give up attitude and seeking growth. Never give up in seeking growth. Attitude is everything. And this football thing that we have them go through, do you see it as a chore or an opportunity? We've actually put candidates in with other fake candidates who are really already employees to see if they'll start whining about the project. And we'll have our fake employee with the candidate say, oh my God, wasn't that stupid? To see, do they buy in? Do they take that bite? Are they the type of person that's going to tell you what you want to hear and complain on the backside? I don't want that kind of person either. When I go back to when I was at Grissom and I was getting hired and going through all that kind of stuff, when I entered that interview process, I really thought it was all about flight hours and all that kind of stuff. Went through pilot training, flew at Grissom for a long time, and I remember I got asked to sit on one of their interview panels once. Wow, okay, this is cool. This is a different behind-the-scenes look here. And so I'm asking my commanding officer before we go in, I'm like, okay, so can I take a look at this person's resume? I want to be prepared. And he goes, Strawman, it's not about, we're going to assume that they can fly a plane. He goes, the way I want you to think about this interview is we might be deployed to some desert, who knows where. You might have to fly with that guy for 12 hours that day up in that cockpit. You're going to be with him a lot. And then when you get back and land, now you got to sleep in the same tent as this dude for maybe a year. That's what you're interviewing for. It has nothing to do with flying. It has all to do with this and how it's important. Character is everything. Character is everything. And if we think of how these kids learn, they don't learn from lectures. They learn from seeing it. Unfortunately, the battle right now is we're battling up against Kardashians, TikTok, and everything else. They're constantly seeing other stuff that doesn't necessarily point in this direction. And so we've got to look at it as our immediate customer is the kids that are in your classroom. And you guys are the start of it. I mean, you're laying the foundation. Let's be real. I mean, they're not learning this in a lot of cases at home. It's just not. Times have changed. And so the burden, unfortunately, is on you guys. But how do we see that? Is this clay that I get to mold? That is. This is a huge opportunity. Huge. If we see it like that. But we got to see it like that. It's easy to blame somebody else. It's easy to blame parents or society, economy, China balloons, whatever. It's easy to do that. That's just the hand we happen to be dealt at this moment. And there's going to be more. So, the takeaway from today is I want you to think about who your customer is. And it's not just the kid, but kindergarten teachers, your customer is the first grade teacher, right? First grade, second grade, and so on and so on. So you need to ask those guys, am I giving you what you want? And if you don't go ask, you're just assuming, and then we can get at the end of this thing and not get at all what we want. Fifth grade, hey, middle school, are we giving you what you want? How do we stack up? How does J.R. Watson stack up to Country Meadow? I don't know. But you need to, I mean, right? That makes sense. Makes total sense. So, it wouldn't be right if I didn't take this opportunity to get back to you guys for all the pop quizzes you gave me. So, please get out a pen and paper. And I'm not kidding. Michelle, can you turn that off? All right, here we go. We are going to write down in the left-hand side all the core values, all the portrait of a Baron. What are those traits? What are they? I think I heard somebody say no cheating. That's right. One of the things that skill I learned in the military was acronyms. And while I love the portrait of a Baron traits, there's a lot of them. And I need some kind of memory trigger to remember those things. I don't know what that is, but if you're struggling right now, they could be in a first grader. So some sort of little trick, a song, something. Something to help remember, because it's hard. Okay, let's pretend that we all have those down. There are 7 of them. That's your work. Okay. Now, one of the most powerful things we can do, is to know yourself. Because it starts with you, right? It absolutely starts with you. At my company, we have 5 core values. And every 90 days, you get to review yourself, and your peers get to review you on our core values. We're going to do that right now, but just for you. We're not going to do the peer thing. And I'm going to force rank you. It's a grade of A+, which means you do it most of the time. I display this most of the time as a plus. A plus minus says that I do it a fair amount of the time. Kind of right in the middle. And then the last grade is a minus, and that says I need to do this more. You get 2 pluses and 2 minuses. You have to have 2 minuses, you have to have 2 pluses, because everybody's got work to do on something. And the rest can be plus minuses or pluses or more minuses, whatever. But be honest with yourself. Do I display these traits? And again, no shame here. There's There's always something that somebody can work on, always. It's weird to think about it on yourself, isn't it? And be harder on yourself, hopefully. So again, you should have 2 pluses in your list, 2 minuses, at least. You can have more than that, and then the rest would be plus minuses, where I'm doing it, but okay, once you have that, that's your guide. That's your guide for the next, say, 90 days or so. Then I suggest you do it again. Now, between now and then, nothing drives productivity like accountability. Nothing does. And you need to find an accountability partner. Somebody to talk about, hey, here's where I saw myself. Here's what I think I need to work on. But you know what? You can't see your blind spots. You just can't. And so, get that perspective of somebody else. Talk about this and see if they agree. Hey, I think I am low in empathy. I could use some, I could do some things there, and a great plan also says what you're going to do. So I want you as my accountability partner. You should see this on me the next 90 days. This is how I'm going to show you and my students that I'm making changes. And if I'm not, I want you as my accountability partner to call me out. Maybe we have a secret word. Muskrat. Whatever. But it's all about to get us better. Because the core values start with us. Thank you guys for your time today. You've been awesome. Thank you.